Hello, what's up? How's everyone doing? Sana lahat kayo okay. Today, we have a very interesting topic. We are going to talk about the psychology of learning. There are two goals that I want to achieve for this lesson. I want to answer two questions. Number one, why you should seek learning. If there is one thing in our psychological life na dapat laging nangyayari, something that must happen every day, I would say that learning is one of those. Why is learning so important for our psychological life? We will answer that question. And number two, how do we learn the right way? In fairness, lahat naman tayo, we are attempting to learn something. But many of us are not doing it in the right way. So gusto ko ipakita in this lesson kung paano ba yung tamang paraan, what is the right way to learn something. Because as you will see, learning is not just a random process, anything goes. There is a specific system that we need to follow or laws on how to learn better. So those are the two questions that I want to answer for this lecture. Before we continue, I want you to please do this self-exercise. Let's start with number one. Think of a skill right now that you can say you are good at. How good? I want that skill that you have right now, dapat above average ka to master. Okay? So, hindi lang ito basta-basta marunong kang gawin, but it has to be something that you're really good at, above average to master level. Talagang maipagmamalaki mo na magaling ka sa skill na yan. Okay? So, you type it in the chat box. Ready? Go. And then, after you think of that skill and type it in the chat box, you proceed to number two. Now, I want you to go back in time and visualize the first time you attempted to do this skill. When you were not yet that good, when you were not yet a master of that skill, I want you to visualize yourself doing that skill. Okay? So, ano yung nakikita mo in your head in terms of how you do it the first time? How did you do it the first time? Were you immediately that good? How is that different compared to the time that you were already a master? So I want you to visualize that. Okay? Now, if you are most people doing this self-reflection in general, your pattern will be like this. So palakihin natin yung slide. Right? So most of you will start being very low. Igalaw natin, no? Para yan. Very low in your skill in doing that because it's your first time. But as you kept on doing that skill over and over again, ginawa mo ng ginawa, ano nangyari? Your performance got better and better. So as the number of trials increased, trials that you have done that skill, whatever that is, habang ginagawa mo ng paulit-ulit yan, what happens is the more you got better and better in doing that skill. And this is also true in many other skills in life. Okay? Like for example, our ability to play basketball, your ability to play a musical instrument, or even your ability to do mathematics, it follows this pattern. The more you do these skills over and over again, the more improvement you will experience. So this exercise na pinagawa ko sa inyo, it is actually designed for you to realize that all of us underwent the process of learning. Sa learning, yung Tagalog ng learning is tuto, no, or natuto. What is learning in psychological terms? This is an improvement or change in our performance due to repeated experience. Let me repeat. Learning is defined as improvement or change in performance due to repeated experience. So based on that exercise we can say that once upon a time, you underwent or you experienced learning. Now, based on this definition of learning, kasi this definition, although very short, it is very rich. Ang dami na natin kaagad pwedeng matutunan from this simple definition of learning. Let me share with you 3 lessons that you can learn from this simple definition of learning. Number 1, I hope you learned or I hope you realize that we need to seek learning every day. Again, like I mentioned a while ago, if there is one psychological activity that you need to be doing every day, you need to be ensuring happens every day, it is learning, because it's very important for our psychological life. In what way is learning very important? Because learning is the only way that we improve as human beings. We become better person, we end up having a better life because we are capable of learning. Kapag ang tao hindi natututo, hindi tayo nag-i-improve. Walang pagbabagong maganda na nangyayari sa buhay natin. So if we want to really improve, to make things better in our lives, we have to make sure that indeed we are learning every day. Let me give you some other examples of skills na kailangan mong matutunan that will definitely improve your life. For example, your literacy, your ability to read and write. Question, do you think a person's life will improve if a person learns reading and writing? Definitely. Kasi yung society natin, talagang vina-value yung mga skills na yan. It's very hard to find a job if you don't know how to read or to write. It's very hard for you to pass academic requirements if you don't know how to read or to write. So literacy is important to be learned. Number 2, computing skills. That's also very important. Your ability to deal with numbers, because we are living in a very quantitative society. Halos lahat ng proseso in our society is run by numbers. Diba? Our money, our economy, our health. You need to learn how to deal with numbers, how to add, how to subtract, how to multiply, how to divide. You see? So if you learn how to deal with numbers, how to compute numbers, it will improve your life. And of course, number 3, let's not forget that our relational skills is also very important for us to learn, because majority of our life will be spent within human relationships. So mahalaga na dapat marunong din tayong matuto ng mga skills that are very important within our relationships. How do you talk to someone? Or how do you read a person's emotions? How do you become sensitive? The more you learn these social skills or relational skills, the better your relationship becomes, which will contribute big time to the overall quality of your life. So again, yun lang naman yung point nung slide na to, no? That learning, if you know how learning works, and you learn different skills in life, it will definitely improve the overall quality of your life. In fact, sabi nga ng isang author, no, how do you stay in the game? Bakit ka o paano ka hindi malalaos? Paano ka magiging useful even if you are already old? Ang sabi niya, anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. And syempre, halos lahat naman tayo dito, we don't like getting old in a sense that we are already useless, we are already outdated. Okay? Take note, I have nothing against being old, no? But that's the point. If you keep on learning, you are practicing the process of learning, it makes you young. You become useful. You become easier to adapt to the changes in our environment. I think that's a very important word in connection to learning. Your ability to adapt. Lalong-lalo na in our world today, sudden changes are happening. And the best way to deal with changes is to adapt. But what does it take for you to adapt to the changing environment? You need to learn. Hindi ka pwede mag-adapt o maka-adjust sa isang pagbabago in the environment kung hindi ka marunong matuto. So that's the point. Learning, the process of learning is very important for our psychological life, even to our spiritual life. 'Di ba? If you want to increase your overall quality of life, anong gagawin mo? You also need to update your spiritual life. Paano ba ina-update yung spiritual life? By applying spiritual principles. You learn important spiritual principles which are written clearly in the pages of the Bible. Specifically, the book of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, there are a lot of spiritual principles in those books within the Bible that will definitely increase the quality of your life through improving your spiritual dimension. So for those of you who feel that you are spiritually weak or you are spiritually outdated, one reason is you are not learning new spiritual principles. Not yet too late. You open your Bible, you go to Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, you learn spiritual principles and apply spiritual principles to update, to make your quality of life better. In fact, let me read to you Proverbs chapter 4, verses 10 to 13, just to show you how learning spiritual principles can improve quality of life. Ang sabi ni Solomon dito, "Listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of your life will be many." Yung mga bagay na isa-say niya dito, mga sasabihin niya, that's learning. That's the wisdom that when you learn will bring you good things. Such as, verse 10 pa lang meron na, your years will be many. It will lengthen your life because you are learning principles that lengthens life. Verse 11, I instruct you in the way of wisdom and lead you along straight paths. When you walk, your steps will not be hampered. When you run, you will not stumble. Hold on to instruction. Do not let it go. Guard it well, for it is your life. When you learn those instructions, the spiritual instructions, and you apply it in your everyday life, definitely the Bible promises na tataas yung quality of life natin. Okay? So that's how important learning is. So we need to seek it every day. Huwag natin papalipasin ng isang araw na hindi tayo natututo. Number 2, change is the marker of learning. Again, going back to the definition of learning, if you still remember, what is learning? Improvement or change in performance due to repeated experience. So given that definition, the word change is very important in understanding learning. Paano mo malalaman if a person is currently learning or not? Or in Tagalog question, natututo ka ba? Paano mo malalaman kung natututo ka? Paano mo malalaman kung natututo ba yung seatmate mo? Paano ba nalalaman ng teacher kung natututo ba yung mga students niya? The word is change. That's what we look for. Meron bang pagbabago in the behaviors of our students? That's the main marker of learning. If I compare your performance before and your performance after I teach you, or if I compare the way you think before and after you experience my subject, and it varies, may pagkakaiba yung before and after, then we can say that learning has happened. That's very important. That's the main marker of learning. There has to be a change in the way you think or in the way you do things para masabi natin na nagkaroon talaga ng learning. Very simple example is the way we write. How would we know if the student that we are teaching to write learns how to write? Take a look at the picture kapag may pagbabago. At the start, medyo pangit pa yung mga letters dyan. Hindi pa ganun kaayos yung pagsulat ng letters. Hindi pa siya ganun ka-organize. Hindi pa siya ganun ka-straight. But what happens is the more this person learns, the more consistent the teacher teaches the student to learn, what happens, there will be a change in the way this student will write. Mas magiging maganda na. So change in writing means that student learned writing. Kapag maganda na yung sulat niya, kapag tama na yung mga strokes niya, then that is the official time that we can say this student has learned. Even in relationships. Remember, sinabi ko kanina, we also need to learn certain skills within relationships to improve our relationships. How would we know if we have learned a relational skill which is related to our emotional intelligence, by the way? Diba? Very important yung emotional intelligence na yan, no? Such as our ability to handle relationships. One way to increase our EQ is to learn or to realize certain relational principles that we apply in our relationships. Kapag meron tayong pagbabago na ginagawa in the way we relate with other people, then we can say we have learned relationally. For example, sinabi dito sa slide, kung noon, nakaya akong saktan ng taong minahal ko ng sobra-sobra, natuto na ako ngayon. Hindi na ako basta magmamahal ng sobra para hindi na ako masaktan ng bongga. Now, I like the way the author wrote these words to reflect the process of learning. Diba? Nakita niyo yung noon at yung ngayon. Ang tanong, meron bang change? Meron bang pagbabago in the way this person relates to another person? Yes, kasi natuto na siya. Ano raw siya dati? Nung hindi pa siya natututo, sobra siya magmahal. Wala siyang tinitira sa sarili niya. This person almost worships the other person. But something bad happened in the relationship and that taught the person something. This person learned something about relationships. Ano yung pagbabago? Ano yung adjustments that this person will do? The next time he or she loves, hindi na raw siya magmamahal ng sobra-sobra para hindi na raw siya masasaktan ng bongga. This person now learned how to balance the affection that he or she has to the other person. Hindi na siya mag-over-love. Babalansihin na niya. Mahal ko yung taong to, pero dapat mahal ko rin yung sarili ko. Although I will give everything to this person, I will make sure that I will also leave some respect for myself. You see, that person wasn't like that before the bad experience. But that bad experience made that person learn a relational skill, which is, in a way, a certain level of self-preservation. Alright? So that's what you mean by learning in relationships. Now, let's go the reverse. Sabi ko kanina, how would you know if a person has learned, if there is a change, improvement, or adjustment in thinking or behavior? Paano mo malalaman kung hindi natututo yung isang tao? There is one song which I think can answer that question. It's entitled, Di na natuto. Or in English, did not learn. Okay? Now, vice versa. If learning happened, there must be a change. If there is no learning, there's no change in behavior. And this is reflected in the song. Let's read. Sabi nung writer, nandyan ka na naman, tinutukso-tukso ang aking puso. Ilang ulit na bang iniiwasan ka, di na natuto. So there's a person here na gusto niyang iwasan. He wants to let go of this person, maybe because something bad happened in the relationship and it hurt him so much. But what happens? This person that hurt him, sulyap ng iyong mata, laging nadarama kahit malayo. Nahihirapan na, lalapit-lapit pa, di na natuto. So that person who hurt this guy, lumalapit-lapit sa kanya. Nilalapitan siya, nagpapakita sa kanya. 'Di ba? Nag-i-initiate ng interaction. Okay, now, we will know if this person learned his lesson or not. Because he's been hurt in the past, something happened, and then this person is maintaining, this person is getting near the person again, nag-i-initiate na naman ng contact. What will be the change in the writer's, in the singer's behavior? This is the answer. Isang ngiti mo lang at ako'y napapaamo. There you go. So, what happens? Yakapin mong minsan ay muling magbabalik sa'yo na walang kalaban-laban. Ang puso ko'y tanging iyo lamang. Yung keywords dito ay magbabalik. Ibig sabihin ng magbabalik, kung ano siya dati, ganun na naman siya ngayon. Okay? Once upon a time, this person who hurt him loved the other so much. And then something bad happened, he got hurt, and the person who hurt him is here again, initiating another contact. What happens? Instead of learning that this person hurt him, walang learning na nangyari. Kasi once this person who hurt him does something again, nginitian siya, niyakap na naman siya, walang change in his behavior. He loved her before, he loved her up until right now. There's no change in behavior, therefore, there is no learning. By the way, it's a very good song to listen to, no? Punta na lang kayo sa YouTube and then you type Dina Natuto para marinig nyo yung actual song. But this song basically shows to us the definition of someone who is not learning. Okay? So in the first part of that lecture, we basically focused on the definition of learning. I want to check if you have learned so far kung ano ba yung definition of learning. Get a piece of paper and then I want you to write yes if learning occurred in the following situations, and no if there is no learning that occurred. Remember, just a very quick review, ano ang main marker for learning? Merong bang behavioral or thinking change na nangyari after an experience? Okay, kung meron, may learning. Kung walang change, there's no learning. Let's start with number 1 on a piece of paper. Ready? John went to a hotel. It gave him a bad service. He never returned again. Yes or no? The correct answer here is yes, there's learning because there's a change in behavior. John will no longer go back to that hotel. Right? There's a change in behavior. Number 2. Agatha used to speak very fast in oral presentations. Now she is more relaxed. Did Agatha learn to speak better? Yes, because there was a change in the way she spoke. From very fast, now she's more relaxed. Number 3. Ben scored 12 over 15 in his history quiz. The next day, he scored 5 over 15 in exactly the same quiz. So, inulit lang ng teacher niya yung quiz. Pero the second time that Ben took the test, mas mababa yung score niya, 5 over 15 from 12 over 15. Now, this is a little bit tricky. Was there a change? Yes. From 12 over 15, naging 5 over 15. But we cannot say that there is learning in number 3. Kasi yung change, hindi naman improvement eh. It went down. Right? It's a worse performance. 12 over 15 to 5 over 15, that is not learning. Although there is a change. Pero yung change niya kasi going down eh. He got worse. In fact, in number 3, you can even suspect that maybe Ben cheated doon sa kanyang unang quiz. Kaya siya naka 12 over 15. Tapos pangalawang test niya of exactly the same quiz, 5 over 15 lang siya. Right? So this is not learning. There's no learning that happened here. Next, number 4. Mark and Chris always fight as a couple. 3 weeks after, they still fight a lot. Yes or no? Is there learning? Answer, there's no learning. Mark and Chris are not learning how to deal with each other kasi wala namang pagbabago in the way they related with each other. 3 weeks after, away pa rin sila ng away. And last one, number 5, Chef Tony can cook 4 different dishes in 1 hour. A week later, he can now cook 5 different dishes in 1 hour. Yes or no? Is there learning? The correct answer here is yes, there is learning. Ano yung change na nangyari? Chef Tony can now cook more dishes in 1 hour. It used to be he can cook 4 dishes in 1 hour, but he got faster. Now he's able to cook 5 dishes in 1 hour. Okay? There's a change. So Chef Tony learned. Alright, so that's a definition of learning. Now, let's move on to the third lesson about learning. Huwag nyo kakalimutan baka nalilito na kayo. Again, what's the first lesson for learning? First lesson in learning, we need to seek learning every day. It will improve our quality of life. Number 2, don't forget that change is the marker of learning. There's no change, there's no learning. There's change, there's learning. And last one, number 3, is repetition is the foundation of learning. We go back again to the definition of learning: improvement or change in performance due to repeated experience. Para pala magkaroon ng learning, kinakailangan mo ng repeated experience. Okay? You need to do something over and over again for you to learn. But let's be more specific and dig deeper. What do you mean by repeated experience? What kinds of experiences do you need to repeat so that learning will happen? There are 2 experiences that you need to repeat over and over again para matuto ka. Number 1, or letter A, Ito yung tinatawag nating observation. You need repeated observation to help yourself learn something. In most textbooks in psychology, ang tawag natin dyan, observational learning or social modeling. So what happens in this process is you watch a source of learning, you watch someone performing a skill, and then you watch that person over and over again. Lagi mo siyang pinapanood. The more you watch this person do that skill over and over again, what happens? That is already a way for you to learn the way of that person. One good example of this would be how kids learn. In general, that's how kids learn. When they watch a lot of television, every day they observe different behaviors from different TV shows tulad ng mga cartoons. What happens? Eventually, nakukuha nila yung mga patterns ng mga cartoon characters that they watch. They learn the behaviors of the cartoon characters that they watch. Why? Because they repeatedly observe the behaviors of those cartoon characters. Kaya ang isang bata, halimbawa nagtataka ka kung bakit nagmumura o bakit nagiging very aggressive, which by the way is very well studied in psychology. Children become aggressive, verbally man or physically, one of the reasons because of what they see from television. In fact, no, there is a very popular psychological experiment that maybe you want to check out, the experiment by Albert Bandura on the Bobo dolls. Here's the picture of that experiment. Hanapin nyo na lang sa Google, no, Bobo dolls. So basically, Albert Bandura, a social psychologist, observed the effects of violent model to the behaviors of children. And his conclusion is very simple. If kids watch a model that is very violent towards a toy, after watching this model, you leave them in their own rooms, those kids will do exactly what they saw from the model. Magiging violent din sila doon sa toy. 'Di ba? Kung nakita niyo yung picture on the slide, they did exactly what the model did. Here's what the model did, and here's what the kids did. Exactly the same. They imitated the aggressive behaviors coming from the model. Anong tawag natin dito? We call this observational learning or social modeling. That is why, ang implication nito, we have to be really, really careful in what kinds of shows kids watch by themselves. Kasi minsan, weakness na mga parents and guardians yan, no? Yung, we want the kids to shut up. Gusto natin silang mag-behave lang. So, we make television or tablets in our context today as the nanny or the babysitter. So, we just let them watch whatever they want in these gadgets, not knowing or not realizing that kids learn a lot of things from these gadgets. Unfortunately, a lot of the things that these kids are learning from these gadgets, from these shows, are psychologically unhealthy, such as high levels of aggression. Or may ibang shows pa nga, merong mga thoughts on suicide or even thoughts about sex. Pero yung packaging, pang-bata yung shows. Let's be aware, let's be careful about those shows, no? Siguraduhin natin that those shows are not being observed by the innocent minds of our kids. And don't get me wrong, observational learning, although my example was about kids, also applies to you. Kahit tayong mga adults, we are still capable of observational learning. In fact, you cannot deny this. There are a lot of things that you do right now. There are a lot of beliefs that you are holding right now. You have those beliefs and those behaviors because you observe those things from your models in television or from the media. 'Di ba? Saan mo nakuha yung paninigarilyo mo? Saan mo nakuha yung pagmumura mo? Saan mo nakuha yung belief mo na okay lang yung abortion o okay lang yung premarital sex, right? Where did you get all these things? Dati-rati naman, you don't believe these things, but it changed. You learn to believe such things that you did not believe before from the media. Media is a very powerful tool in inducing learning. Kahit sa mga adults, the more we observe our cultural idols, how they think, how they behave, what they believe in, we have a tendency to copy their ways. Kahit tayo, we are product of observational learning. Right? Or even in sports, gamitin ko yung personal example ko in sports, no? How I learned to play basketball, I observed Allen Iverson a lot. For those of you who are watching basketball, I am an Allen Iverson fan. Talagang nung high school ako, whenever I play basketball, lahat ng moves ko patterned after Allen Iverson. So a lot of my playmates in basketball, ang tawag nila sa akin, si Allen Iverson. Kasi kung paano ko gumalaw, paano ko tumira ng bola, paano ko mamasa, my mentality towards the game, it's patterned after Allen Iverson. Question, how did I become like that? How did I move that way? How did I learn to dribble the ball that way? By watching lots and lots of Allen Iverson games. Oh, di ba? That's the power of observational learning. Now, before we move on to the second way of learning, may mga applications tayong dapat matutunan on observational learning. Number one, we need to take advantage of observational learning. Again, observational learning is a very powerful way to learn, and I would say this is very easy to do today, especially in our technological society. Halos lahat ngayon pwede mo nang matutunan. Okay? Unfortunately, many people today are not taking advantage of our opportunity to learn new things today because of technology. Take for instance YouTube. Halos lahat ngayon sa YouTube, mag-search ka lang ng any skill, YouTube can teach you through observational learning. You just go to YouTube, type the skill you want to learn, and then YouTube will search videos on that skill that you want to learn, and all you need to do is to watch. Observe what's happening in the video, and then that can help you learn. But are we taking advantage of that? Many people today, they use YouTube not to learn, but to entertain themselves, which is very unfortunate. I have nothing against entertainment, pero kasi when it comes to learning, wala ka masyadong natututunan when you just entertain yourself. You are just stimulating your emotions. Naiinis ka lang, natutuwa ka, naiiyak ka, but after those emotional experiences, wala kang learning na nakukuha. Walang improvement in your behavior that you can use in the future. But when you use YouTube to learn, as in, if you look at your YouTube history, ang makikita ko puro videos on a certain skill, mas maganda sana yung ganong usage ng YouTube. We are using YouTube to improve ourselves through learning. So please, let's take advantage of YouTube for us to learn and grow as human beings. 'Di ba? Ang dali-dali na lang mag-observational learning ngayon during the time of YouTube. During my time, nung wala pang YouTube, it's so hard. Kung meron kang skill na gusto mong matutunan and it's very specialized, you need to search for hard books. And usually, nakikita yung mga books na yon saan? Abroad. Bibilin mo pa yung book na mahal para mapunta sa Pilipinas yung libro na gusto mong basahin, but YouTube is right here, right now. Right? Everything is very accessible. So please, let's take advantage of that. And also, application number 2 in connection to observational learning is, let's also learn to choose who we watch. Hindi lang tayo nood ng nood, hindi lang tayo observe ng observe. Let's watch people who are better than us if we want to grow. 'Di ba? Kasi kapag yung pinapanood mo mas magaling sa'yo, yung learning mo is going upwards because you are learning a more complicated skill and you are growing. If you are watching someone whose skill is lower than you, then the learning is downwards. Now you are teaching yourself, you are learning to go downwards. 'Di ba? So it's better that you watch people who are better than you in performing a skill para mas nag-i-improve ka. Parang itong nasa picture, 'di ba? Let's zoom in. If you want to learn better karate, If you are a white belter, who would you observe? Observe the movements and the techniques of a black belter para tataas yung skill mo. Kasi kung white belter ka, pinapanood mo white belter din, edi hindi ka gagaling. So you need to learn how to choose or who to watch. Choose who to watch if you are going to use observational learning to learn. Okay? Observe the masters perform if you want to learn better. Okay? Now let's move on to the second type of experience that will help you learn, and this is called repeated experience. Okay, so ano yung una? Repeated observation. Letter B, repeated experience. In this case, ang ginagawa mo, you are now repeatedly giving yourself an opportunity to apply what you observe. So this is complementary to letter A. After you observe something or someone doing something, doing a skill, you don't just stop in observing. Nood ka lang ng nood. Kinakailangan mo i-apply yourself. Ulit-ulitin mo, i-apply yung mga bagay na nakita mo. Anong tawag doon? You call that repeated experience. And as you apply what you observe, you analyze the outcomes of what you applied. Diba? As you can see on the slide, you try, you fail, and then feedback. Bigyan mo ng feedback yung sarili mo. Bakit ba ako nagkamali? Anong dapat i-adjust? And then you try again, and then you try again until you master the skill. That's the heart of learning. Trial and error. Trial, reflect about your experience, make some adjustments, and then you try again, make adjustments, try again until you perfect the skill. Anong tawag doon? You call that repeated experience. It's not enough to just observe, pero kinakailangan what you observe, you also need to apply. Another example, no, to differentiate observational learning from repeated experience or direct experience is when you ride a bike. There is a difference between repeatedly observe how to ride a bike and repeatedly rode a bike. Although both are ways of learning, both are experiences that will contribute to your learning, pero ang pinagkaiba niyan is when you stay in the first one, it will help you learn how to ride a bike theoretically. Di ba we always use that term? Di ba? Marunong ka ba mag-drive? Theoretically, marunong ako. What does that mean? You know how in your head. And where did that come from? Why did you know how to drive in your head? Because you have seen human beings drive. You know what brake is for. You know what gas is for. In this case, the bike, you know what pedals are for. You know that bikes are meant are run through balance, body balance. You know it here in your head. But practically speaking, do you know how to ride a bike? Practically, pwedeng hindi. Theoretically, alam mo lang siya. Pero practically, hindi. But the ideal learning is both. Dapat marunong ka. Theoretically, you know the principles how to ride a bike. And practically, you learn or you know how to ride a bike. Nakakapagpatakbo ka ng bisikleta nang hindi ka sumisemplang. Diba? So both types of learning are important. Learning something theoretically and learning something practically, very important. Don't just stop learning something theoretically. You have to really exert effort to turn that theory into reality, into practical use. Okay? So yun yung pinagkaiba ng observational learning from experiential learning. And another application about learning in connection to experiential learning, no, is this is where the importance of a mentor enters. Okay? If you want to really take advantage of your experiential learning, you want experience to teach you more than observation, you need to find a mentor. Another difference between observational and experiential learning is the presence of a mentor. Doon kasi sa observational learning, when you watch a model perform something, is that model who is better than you mentoring you? No. Why? Wala namang direct interaction doon eh. So when you just watch someone in YouTube performing something, that person is not mentoring you. That person is just modeling the skill that you want to learn to you. But mentorship is different. That person who is better than you in doing a skill talks to you, corrects you, gives you tips. That is a very, very important ingredient for learning to happen. You are being mentored by a better someone. O kaya, one application here if you want to learn better is, number one, identify the target skill that you want to learn. And number two, maghanap ka ng master na magaling doon sa skill na yon, and then make sure that that master will teach you directly how to perform that skill. It will definitely contribute big time to your quality of learning. In fact, mas gusto ko tong method na to kaysa observational learning lang eh. Mas malalim, mas nagtatagal sa psyche natin, yung learnings natin when we learn things from being mentored compared to we learn something because we just read it somewhere or we just saw it somewhere. Okay? Mentors in life are very important. Even in the Bible, when we talk about spiritual mentorship, the Bible talks about the importance of mentorship in our everyday life. Sabi yan sa Proverbs, walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Bakit ka naging wise? Sabi ng Bible. Kasi yung mentor mo, wise din. Wise people mentored a person and that person became wise themselves. And vice versa. Bakit ka laging nasa trouble? Kasi yung nag-mentor sa'yo, fools. Lagi kang merong direct experience sa kalokohan. Kaya ang nangyari, napatrouble ka because you were mentored by fools. So it's very important for you to really choose the right mentor to teach you the skills in the right way. Alright? That's a very important input, no? In trying to learn the right way. So before we end the class, I just want you to, again, refocus on the big ideas for today. Number one, learning increases quality of life. Don't let a day pass by without learning something new because it will improve the quality of your life. Number two, repetition is the key to learning. Kung gusto mo talagang matuto, kinakailangan talaga matyaga ka. Meron kang patience. That's why patience is very important attribute for a person who wants to learn something. Ang mga taong walang patience, hirap na hirap matuto yung mga yan eh. 'Di ba? Bakit? Saan natin gagamitin yung patience? Because the main ingredient to learn successfully is repetition. It is the key to learning. And there are two experiences that you need to repeatedly have, right? You need to repeatedly observe people better than you and repeatedly perform what you observe. And of course, hindi ko lang nalagay dyan, repeatedly be mentored by someone who is better than you. That's the best way to learn. And last one, number three, there is a right way to learn. Take note. Based on the things I'm teaching you right now, I hope you realize that learning is not just a random thing, anything goes. There is a system on how to learn the right way. And I have already told you some of those principles on how to learn the right way. After this lesson, meron kayong post-lecture assignment where you are going to watch a TED lecture delivered by Josh Kaufman. Yung title ng talk niya is The First 20 Hours, How to Learn Anything. In this video, Josh Kaufman, the one that you can see here, will teach you the different steps, systematic steps on how you should attempt to learn anything that you want to learn. So I have given you already some of the tips, but Josh Kaufman will take this to the next level. Alright, so that will be one of your post-lecture assignment. And there is another post-lecture assignment that you will do after you watch the Josh Kaufman talk, which I'm going to make visible in our module. Alright, so that ends our class today. Thank you everyone for listening. I hope you learned something. Have a great day and God bless. Bye-bye.